It's about 20 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock in the morning. A very good morning. My name is Priva Elibaz, and thank you so much for watching Sunrise at Sea. Of course, we are in our final part, or the final segment of the show, which is our views. And basically, we are going to be talking about a very interesting thing. You know, it's so weird how people talk about productivity, but do not actually realize that it's something that could actually turn toxic if it is not regulated. So joining me at the center of this conversation are the ladies Apollo Sarah, Shivan Auma, and Agi Uwase. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So today, ladies, we're going to be looking at toxic productivity, which is basically a mindset that manifests as the need to constantly do. You may feel that you can't rest or take any downtime, and when you're forced to, you can't turn off your mind and enjoy it because you are busy worrying about what else you should be doing. So basically, if you find yourself constantly busy, stressed out, or unable to turn off, you're most likely not alone, because workaholism, or people who spend a lot of time doing a lot of work, is something that is very real, and it involves them going an extra mile, no matter the cost, that risks their well-being, their physical and mental health as well, along with, other missed social events, or ignoring your own sleep, exercise, or health, basically in general. When you find yourself that you don't have a life and, work is always on, work is always available, that's the hustle you're keeping, that's the culture you're keeping, it can actually result into something that could be toxic if it is not regulated. Now, basically, the toxic mindset can be difficult to stop, and because overwork is often cast in a positive light, when you talk about work, you associate it with something that as a positive thing. You're not going to say I'm working and someone is like, oh my God, why are you working? Like, they associate that with a lot of positivity, and it's often cast in a positive light. But the good thing about it is that once you actually recognize it, you can take some concrete steps to shift away from the toxic productivity and actually reclaim your life. So the very first question I'm going to pose to you, ladies, is do you think productivity can actually be toxic?
Absolutely. Especially when you find yourself, or you constantly find yourself wanting to put out fires at all times. For example, you're on leave, but you're responding to work emails. You want to know what is going on at the company, yet you're on leave. That is definitely toxic productivity. Or not even, you go beyond your work boundaries. You're constantly doing, say you're supposed to leave at 6, you leave at 10, because you feel that work is the most important thing. You need to be working at all times. But even when you leave at 10, you're at work, but you're responding still to emails. You're talking to people at work. Then definitely it has gone toxic, because you constantly feel that you need to be productive at all times. You feel that even when you're not in the company will not run. Or you feel like, I think when it comes to toxic productivity, mostly it comes from an aspect where an individual feels that at all times they need to be productive, like they need to prove a point, and not, by the way, for people, not for themselves, but the people around them. So if you're doing something for people around you and not for yourself, then you're definitely going to damage your mental health. So yes.
Okay, let me ask you, let me stop you a little bit on that point. Do you think people actually do this for other people, or sometimes people really do these things because they want to be better, they want to push themselves in life, they want to achieve certain goals that they set for themselves?
I don't think so. If you're someone who wants to do something, and let's say you want to achieve certain things in life, then there must be, that's why we talk about work-life balance. There has to be a balance between work and life. That is why you find people who are entirely engrossed in work, they do not have social relationships. Yes, they do not understand these social gatherings. Why? Because they are constantly engrossed in work. So I think it becomes toxic when you're not even doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for the people around you, and it is damaging your social life in one way or the other. That is why it's very important that there is a balance between work and your social life, and because if you don't have a social life, then who are you?
Oh yeah. Uwase, or
well, I do think that productivity can be very toxic, especially when it gets addictive. I'll just give an example of my mom. She's a workaholic. She's one person who always wants to be doing something that she feels, I think I've slept too much today, even if it's time off, even if it's a Saturday, it's a Sunday. If she's not doing anything that's purposeful, you understand, it's nothing luxury, it's nothing like leisure. She feels like, I'm not doing anything. She feels like, she has no life when she's not working. And this is a conversation that we're having with her, with my sister. And we're like, you see, that's why you find yourself, sometimes you're very anxious, sometimes you're very stressed. She will wake up and, go to work. And then later on in the evening, she's like, oh, I think I didn't work enough today. You can imagine, you are tired, but you feel like you've not done enough. And I think it comes from the fact that some people have set really high standards for themselves when it comes to work, when it comes to the things they want to achieve, and maybe they've put a time frame. I want to achieve this by the end of this month, so I have to work as much. If I'm doing 2 jobs, it means if I have to meet that set target or that set goal, I have to work overtime. I have to work those extra hours, wake up very early in the morning, you know, cut out lunch breaks, cut out, you know, break tea, whatever it is, cut out social, you know, life with my friends because I want to achieve a certain goal. And yes, it can get very toxic because you find you have no time for self-care. You do need self-care for your mental health at the end of the day. Work is a good thing. It comes with a lot of benefits. It comes with money. It comes with you know, living the life of your dreams. But you can't forget that you also need a life outside of work. You need that social life. You need that spiritual life. You need time for God. You need to go to church. So if you are seated there every other time you're thinking about work, and I also do think that this is stemming from the fact that right now we're living in an era where people are glorifying the hustler culture. I'm not saying being a hustler is not a good thing. It is a good thing, but people are over glorifying it. And that is why you find people are caught in predicaments where you are thinking your friend is achieving more than you are. You feel like they're working harder than you are doing. So you put yourself in a space where you're working way too much.
10 times harder.
Yes, because you want to, you know, measure up to your friends, measure up to everyone in the world. Because, I mean, it's the hustler culture. The hustler is the winner. The hustler is the one that's doing the most. So yes, I think it's very toxic, by the way.
Sarah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, productivity can be toxic, and actually didn't know that that was even a thing. But then I did realize that sometimes when you're overworking or working hard does not mean that you're getting things done or you're making any progress. Like Aggie said, the hustler culture, everybody, we now have a culture where you must keep working. You should always be working like a donkey, you know. You should never have a moment of rest. When you rest, they say that, oh, you're being weak, or you're being lazy, or you're being idle, what the case, or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean that you're getting things done. And the thing about toxic productivity, it can lead to negative feelings about your self-worth and about yourself in general, because you're going to be focusing on the things you haven't done as opposed to building onto the things that you have already done. Did you understand what I mean? So you're freaking out and worried about things that you have not yet done instead of capitalizing on the things that you have done, because we only have 24 hours a day and you can only get so much
Out of that. Well, I was on Twitter over the weekend, just, you know, scrolling through, and I came across a tweet where a certain lady tweeted that she cannot believe in a day we get to work for about 10 hours, then go home, 12 hours, I think 12 hours, then go home for 4 hours, and those 4 hours include you preparing for the next day. And she goes, she ended the tweet by saying, this can't be life. Like, we cannot be living
There
life
has to
like
be more
this.
to life than this.
Yeah, like this cannot be life. So I totally agree with that particular tweet, because, and I think some of the professions really fall prey to this, especially I'll give an example, for example, like lawyers, muchisusa, like you overdo it. I'm a lawyer myself, but then like it's too much. You understand? You clock in at the law firm at 8 o'clock. You're leaving. If you leave past 6 p.m., my friend, you are so unserious.
Past 6
p.m. Yes, I think the last law firm that I worked for, we were not allowed to like leave by before 6 p.m. because when you leave before 6 p.m. you look unserious. So the reason why we actually stayed behind to do more work or to get some more work done is not because we were doing it because this is what we wanted to do. They were making us productive, but in a toxic way. You understand what I'm saying?
Were they paying you for that extra
Oh yes,
time?
oh yes.
Overtime?
You get paid, but at the end of the day, you understand
extra
how.
time?
Yeah. No, they don't pay for the extra time, of course.
Why am I there? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They don't pay you for the extra time, but you see how toxic it can get. It's okay if it's a one-off, it's one day that, you know, you're working on this particular case, you know, you have a Supreme Court, you think you have to do all these submissions and get them together. It's understandable, one-off, but lawyers do it every now and again. You're receiving phone calls at 10 p.m. Shivan mentioned it. You're done with work while you're still, you know, entertaining emails and phone calls from work.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be your me time and, you know, all that.
There is something I would like to add on just a bit. if it's productivity not coming from an aspect where the organization requires you to stay, like even when you really are not being productive, and it comes from you as an individual saying, I need to be at work, I cannot leave before 8 p.m. You're constantly working. Also, the question would be, what are you running away from?
Because you see,
are you an introvert? Are you running away from the social life?
The thing with toxic productivity is that it comes with guilt. If I don't do, I feel guilty deep down.
Less
like, it's like, you're less productive. So it's more of like, it's you're guilt tripping yourself. So you're trying to impress other people, but at the same time, you're guilt tripping yourself. Or working a lot and being more productive.
So your self-worth is based on the amount of work you can get done?
Basically, that's the measure that you put yourself. That's the standard that you put yourself up to when you're a victim of a
or
toxic
even in
productivity.
relation to what you have just said, it could be an aspect of you're running away from something. There are people who bury themselves in work because they are running away from something. Are you running away from not being at home? Are you running away from social gatherings?
But
are you,
problems
exactly.
as well?
Are you running away from? For some people, work is like their scapegoat, like them constantly reading emails, even when you're on leave. Kwagamba, for you're in the Bahamas, but you're responding to emails like surely. What are you running away from? Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people are just micromanagers. They like to be in on top of everything, and make sure that they're perfectionists, so they want things to be done their way, and they don't like other people to take control. Let me give an example. You gave an example of your mom, and I think it's a good fair example of every other person's mom. When you are at home and mom is home, she's micromanaging you. She tells you lay your bed, and then she's like, you have not laid it the right way, let me lay it for you again. She says go cook the food, she complains, then you have to redo it again, or she has to go again and do it. I think some people just have that habit of micromanaging, and they just want to be in charge of everything because they feel nobody else can do it as well as they cannot perform to a satisfactory standard, so they go on to do everybody's job.
Some people are addicted to money. Yes, that is the truth.
Oh yeah.
If I've heard of like 3 examples of certain men in Chikubo who have shops. So I mean, they're making a lot of money, starting off this business, you're earning today. If you're getting about, 1 million, tomorrow you're getting 3, the other day you're getting 4, depending on how many hours you've spent at work. So you find you get addicted to the money. You want to get more. The urge to have more, to get more, also makes people workaholics and become that toxic productive people, because they want more. The urge to just get more money, get that extra 1 million. If you're in position to get it, I think that also adds
I'm glad Uwase hinted on that, because the next question I was going to ask you ladies is that what do you think are some of the reasons that people actually find themselves in this toxic productivity situation? Why?
The other one could be, Shivan said some people are using it as an escape route. Agia says some people are addicted to money. I think other people, it's because of their upbringing. You find that people who grew up without usually tend to not want to have that pattern continue in their cycle. So you find yourself working hard so that you can get all the things that you never had. You understand? Some people find themselves in this pattern of toxic productivity because you want to outshine the next person. Yeah?
That's a valid point.
You want to outshine the next person. You want to be seen. There are those people in our workplaces. We know them. You are doing the most. Nobody's asking you to, but you're doing the most because you want to outshine the next person. It's just that. You don't even really have a goal. It's not like you want a promotion. It's not like you want a bigger salary. You're just there to outshine the next person.
I would also think that some people have set really high standards when it comes to what they want to achieve. Let me take it back in school. I don't know whether reading books is also
it's part of it.
Yes, it does.
You find there are students who would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning while everyone is in bed. They are in class. Some would even have basins of water because they want to read all through. Then while everyone is going for breakfast, they're staying back for like the next 20 minutes. Then all through the day you have classes. In the evening, they run to hostel, shower, get back to class to read. Remember, we have night preps they go for supper or dinner, whatever it is, and from there they're going back to prep, and then there is extension after prep. Because there's those who badly wanted the 8s in 8s and the 10s in 10s. I don't know, the high achievers, those ones. So yeah, you find you're compelled to work so hard, and other people I think have got this from their parents or caretakers or guardians. If you woke up, seeing if you lived seeing your mother wake up every other day, go out to work, come back later in the evening, always busy doing something, so you find somehow you get trapped in there, and you get those few character traits about being overly productive. Yes, because you have learned it from your parents or the space that you're in. The other thing is our friends, the people that we associate ourselves with. You cannot be around 5 friends and everyone is always busy doing something, working hard, and you're the one that's left out. You will feel less of, yes, and you're like, what, I think my friends are working way too hard. I think I should do the same, depending on what they will have achieved from working so hard. So yes, our friends, family, can
push us to be a...
I would say another cause of toxic productivity is you feel like you rather do than not doing.
Okay.
Yes, you rather do than not doing. Like you mentioned it already, guilt tripping. Like you feel like the urge, you need to get it done, or else you cannot make peace with yourself. Or we have priorities. For some people, family comes first. The other time we're talking about how in Asia, for them, family is the first most important thing in their life. So it depends. For some people, it's not family. For some people, it is work. So if work is like the topmost thing for you,
priority,
then you're definitely going to find yourself in a whole system of being toxic and then being productive, but in a toxic way. So I would say that is the first reason. The other one, like I had mentioned, is what are you running away from? I think it's very important that we understand that why is it that when you find yourself in a situation where you're not working, you're uncomfortable. You want to go ahead and make sure that you're at work. If you're not at work, you're responding to emails. If you're not responding to emails, somehow you find, if it's for example a TV station, you're monitoring what show is on air, yet you're on leave. So why? What are you running away from? I think we need to get more comfortable with our lives outside work. But also there are people who don't have a life outside work. There are people who are just not social creatures. So you'll find that for them, work is the best thing that ever happened to them. Exactly. Yeah. So you can't blame them also.
I have another one. First, hold on. Some workplaces just exploit their employees. So you find one person is handling like 5 other responsibilities on top of their own responsibility. So you find that person is being, in the situation of toxic productivity. So you find you are either the HR, then you're the administrator, then you are the legal person, then you are, whatever you're doing, then again you're in charge of tea. So you find yourself having like 5-6 positions and you never catch a break because you're always doing one thing after the other.
You're giving yourself so many roles at the end of
you have been given a tennis.
I like all the submissions the ladies have given, honestly. From like, this was very interesting. Exploitation, yes.
Exploitation,
you're actually being exploited, but you don't even realize it. So you find yourself doing a lot of work. But some of the other reasons for the toxic productivity, number one is doing feels more comfortable than not doing. I think Shivan highlighted on that. And there's often actually a personal or cultural bias for doing, a firm belief that actions speak louder than words, that it's a virtue to act first, or there is a need to conform to the national work ethic. This is something that transcends job role or career level. Now in the workplace, leaders want to demonstrate that they are successful, which they usually equate with being productive, I beg your pardon. There is also a competitive culture among its junior staff wanting to stand out as keen hard workers in order to progress in their careers, and as such a culture of toxic productivity can develop throughout an organization. I think you guys all hinted on this. You're also trying to out-achieve. Is that even a word?
Outshine,
yes. Your friends, and you're also trying to impress your bosses as well. And then you also have bosses who can't catch a break because they want to do everything. But also the other reasons for toxic productivity is that you always have to Google work-life balance to see how pervasive this problem is. Now, while the pandemic has led to the pandemic at that particular time led to more people working from home, increased use of technology meant that it's hard to switch off from, you know, work. That highlights on also what Shivan was saying. You're receiving emails, you're receiving texts, and, you know, like you're always available to work, and also work is available to you wherever you are because of, you know, just a simple gadget. So you find yourself not catching a break because you have to constantly reply to these messages. Well, there are so many other reasons, but let's talk about some of the signs that you know as a person you're suffering from toxic productivity. What are some of those signs?
And the first one would be a sign of toxic productivity is that you do not draw boundaries.
Oh yeah.
You do not draw. That is why I keep arguing. Why do we have homework? There is a reason why I am at school. Schoolwork should be done at schoolwork. Home should be family time. So in the same way, the first sign is that when you constantly, first of all, carry what you're supposed to do in office and carry it home. The next one is when you tend to feel that everything else is not important apart from when it's work. If you see your supervisor's call, you're very quick to answer. If it's your mother calling, you will take your time because you don't think it's important. You're always tending to something work-related because you feel it is more important than the rest of the others.
Yeah.
So for me, those are the two signs that I would say are telltale signs.
Well, I think one of them is when you feel like you don't want to do anything that doesn't serve your clear purpose, like you have a goal at hand. So whatever it is, if it does not fit in any way, if it does not serve your purpose for you to achieve that goal, then you feel like it's not necessary. Let's talk about meeting up with your friends for coffee, for tea, you know, for a good night out. You find you're like, you know, your friends are calling, Uwase, let's hang out tonight, it's a Friday, and you're like, no, I think I have work to do, because you feel like hanging out will take away from some of your time that you'd rather be productive, like really productive when it comes to work.
Yeah.
And I think the other one, you find you're always, you know, anxious in the morning. You're waking up in the morning to go to work, you're very anxious. You feel like, I didn't do enough yesterday, I have so much work to catch up with. Or even you're depressed, you get back home, you feel burnt out because you've had a whole day of doing a lot of work with no rest, with no nothing, because you want to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. So if you find yourself feeling that kind of way, because yes, work is a good thing, work needs us to be serious, but you should be in position to enjoy your work. But if you find yourself in a place where you're not even enjoying the work, it's like you're doing it because either there's a goal at hand that you want to achieve, or maybe there's a certain amount of money that you want to get.
That's at stake.
Yes, yes. So if you feel yourself, if you find yourself in those spaces, if you start feeling that way, you're not enjoying the work, you're depressed, you're just working because you have to work, then that's a sign that you're really, you know, you're getting into the space of toxic productivity.
Yes.
I think for me is when you no longer have time to cater to your other relationships outside work. It could be you could be having a spouse, a partner, you could be in a relationship, you could be having children or friends or family. If you find yourself spending little to no time with them whatsoever, that is a telltale sign. Another thing is when you start developing unhealthy feelings about yourself. You have negative thoughts about yourself and you keep on judging yourself based on the work that you haven't done, when you're always like, oh my goodness, I work so hard and it's not paying off, or you start feeling like your self-worth is dependent on the amount of work that you do, or praise in the workplace, then yeah, that is a telltale sign of toxic.
Something is, you know, it's not working out right. Well, toxic productivity is actually a trap, and if you think you're trying to, you know, solve a problem but are over applying productivity strategies, you may end up, you know, making yourself more stressed than you know, keep yourself in check. So here are some of the warning signs that you're starting to suffer from toxic productivity. Number one, you can't take a break. Now, one sign your obsession with productivity is counterproductive is that you find yourself unable or unwilling to take a break. Everything in your life has become about being more efficient and more productive. Now, this means you can actually spend all your waking hours working. That means like when you're not sleeping, you're working. As long as you're awake, you're working. But the other bit is that you actually have no hobbies or a life. A second sign you're struggling with toxic productivity is that you have no hobbies or life for that matter. And no, taking a break from work to watch Netflix or to view some things on TikTok, what do they call videos? Yeah, on TikTok, or watch some reels on Instagram. That is not a hobby. So by definition, a hobby requires you to put in your time and actually put in your money as well. So, you know, find some hobbies, find a life, or else if you find yourself in a position where you don't have either of these, there's a likelihood that you're actually suffering from toxic productivity. The other bit is that you work because you can, and you almost always can. Now, to make matters worse for productivity overachievers, work now follows us everywhere. Like I mentioned earlier on, with phones and laptops. So it's easier for you to actually, have your laptop or have your phone anywhere. Yes, work remotely and just get the work done. So it's not a must that you have to be used, to office work, or if you're showing up in office. The office goes with you now, and you also go with it. So because you can work, you do. But if you find yourself in that situation, then you actually are leaning more towards the side of being toxic. Yes, so being in terms of productivity. The other bit is that you're experiencing productivity shame. I don't know if it is Wase who mentioned that. For like I think I also talked about it earlier on. For leaders, it's almost hard for you to stay still. They want to see you work. They want you to see. They want to see you come up with new busy strategies. They want to see you as a busy bee for it to make sense. So when you feel guilty spending time on your hobbies, that you'd rather be working, there's a likelihood that you're getting off track. Then the other bit is that your closest relationships are suffering. I think Sarah clarified on that very well. Then the other bit is that you're always trying to set new records. Now, for top performers, work can become a little like how Google Maps has become for most of us. You're always trying to beat the estimated time of arrival by just a few minutes, yeah?
SpongeBob.
By just, a few minutes. So it turns toxic. Productivity turns toxic when you're not comfortable or happy with your current progress and how things are flowing and the results that you're trying to achieve for yourself. So when you find yourself trying to set new records all the time, there's a likelihood that you are being productive but in a toxic way. Then the other bit is that there is no finish line. You always want to get better, so you keep going and keep going because you always want to become a little more efficient. You want to be effective, you want to master a new skill, you want to take on a new language, you want to do all this, but you're not creating time for that because you'd rather work. So when you have no finish line, you're toxic when it comes to productivity. Then the other bit is that you're still overwhelmed, and this comes in when you cannot even sleep at night or take a real vacation or work out or make time for your friends and family and hobbies and all that. You'd rather work than actually do this. So basically what I have to say I think about toxic productivity is that it leaves you not satisfied. Like you'll never be satisfied. You always be overwhelmed and you always want to do something more at any given time. But then let's talk about how one can actually avoid toxic productivity before it actually creeps up on their life and takes their life away. How can they avoid it?
Defining work boundaries, that would be the first one, because the thing about toxic productivity is that it causes you to work too hard for too long, and at times like I said, it is about pleasing the people around you and not yourself. So the first one would be define your work boundaries. Set a target and say from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm going to be at work. 6 p.m. onwards, work-related issues are not supposed to be on my mind, and be intentional about it. That is why you'll find people who say after 6 p.m. if it is urgent, WhatsApp. Even if it is urgent, do not call. I've had friends in my circle who says their supervisors cannot call them past 6 p.m. If it is important, they will text on WhatsApp and the person will find it and respond. The next one, it is okay to take a break. Take a break, learn to take breaks. Okay, even if it's in between like a whole day, for example, you've worked from 10 to about midday, take a lunch break. Take an evening break. It's very important. Get off your smartphone, I think it's very important that we learn to take breaks, because at the end of the day, there is more to life than just work. It's quite unfortunate that there are people out there, all they have known their life is that it's important to work and to provide, and that is a toxic way to live, because at the end of the day, it's not just work that you need your friends, you need your spouse, you need your parents, you need people around you, and work will not help you maintain those relationships. If anything, it will draw you away from them, because look at how much time do we spend at work. We spend most of our time at work. That means we barely have time even for social life. So it's very important that you make the time, set boundaries, and be intentional about it. Even go ahead and tell your boss that, past 6 p.m., please do not call me because I am off duty. Don't call me. WhatsApp me. I am off duty. It's important.
Draw boundaries.
For me, I would say set realistic goals. Sit down. When you want to achieve something, ask yourself, is it actually workable? Is it something that's achievable? Because yes, some of us set, goals that are really up there. First of all, you probably don't have the resources you know, to do what needs to be done to achieve that goal, or maybe you don't have the social capital that you need, you know, to achieve that goal. So it's very important that we set our goals, be smart about them, you know, before you get onto it, to work on it, so that at the end of the day you're not very disappointed and frustrated because you are not achieving the goal, and now you have to work, you know, 12 or even 14 hours a day because you're working on something that may not actually ever work out.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think as human beings, well, I'll speak for me and the other people who are in that category, we have this fear that's embedded in us, the fear of failure. You don't want to be seen as a failure. There are some people who want to overachieve, to get a lot of money, to, you know, to amass a lot of property, because you want your village people to hail you when you go home for Christmas in the village. You want to be the dawn in the village. So yes, you find you're just afraid to fail. Some students are very afraid to fail because they're scared of how their parents will, you know, treat them when they have failed. Even us as friends, sometimes we are scared of failing because we don't know whether our people, our families, our friends will, you know, will respect us or will love us the same way if we have failed. So you find we are working too hard, working so much because we just have that fear of failure. At the end of the day, even the biggest achievers in the world, the Elon Musks, you can talk about, you know, Steve Jobs, I don't know, at some point they failed, but they kept on trying. So it's important to understand that failure will be there, but it shouldn't put you down or put you in a position where you're saying, you know what, I have to work extra hard because I just don't want to fail. I think set realistic goals. Do not fear failure because it will always bring itself. You don't even have to invite it. And the other thing is set time aside for self-care. Love yourself enough and say, yes, work, there's time for work. There's time to take care of myself, as Owa say. There's time to live life and be happy, because you know why? I have seen a statement that said, remember to create time for happiness, because problems always create themselves.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you think about that. I mean, life is for living. It's not just about work.
Wonderful.
For me, I'd have to say this: toxic productivity is a result of hard work, and because you're working hard does not mean you're actually bearing any fruits from your hard work. So you need to work smart. And I say that to say this: do your part. You have a JD, a job description at your workplace. Stick to your roles and your responsibilities. People find themselves in a pattern of toxic productivity because you want to do other people's, you want to mind other people's business. Do your part. That is what you're being paid for. And if your supervisor or boss asks you to do responsibilities outside your job description, it has to come with a salary increment or compensation or facilitation. If it is not beneficial to you, I highly suggest you don't do it, because it's a waste of time. And a lot of people find themselves in a pattern of toxic productivity. Sometimes you don't even have an end goal. You're just doing. You're like a slave to your work. Have a goal and set clear goals and a clear roadmap to getting there. So if you find yourself that you're working towards a promotion, work smartly, so that you get to that promotion, and don't put yourself in a pattern of being overworked. You're doing overtime. There is no overtime check to eat. Listen, stop
incentives.
it. There's no incentives to it, and on top of that, you're still broke. Your relationships are suffering. Your mental health is is at stake. Your health is at stake. Some people are dealing with health issues, back problems, because you're oversitting. You're going blind. You're always staring at a computer. What are you doing? If it is not adding up, if 1 + 1 is not adding up, honey, sit back, do your part. I'm here to do mine. Clock out at 5 p.m. See you tomorrow, 9 a.m.
Same time,
same time, same place.
Well,
don't do it. If it is not benefiting you at the end of the day, don't do it.
Well, I think we can all agree, just, you know, like the submissions you guys gave, that during times of uncertainty, it's easy to channel that discomfort into, you know, being productive. But then we can also now collectively agree that eventually that approach can leave you, you know, burned out and very exhausted. So here are some of the ways you can break the cycle of toxic productivity. Number one, defining your work boundaries. Shivana Oma did highlight on that, but I'll just, you know, add a little bit of it and say that setting boundaries is especially important for people who work remotely. You know, with the pandemic coming and people people being able to do work from home, setting boundaries is very important and very key for you people who don't know when to start and when to finish, especially when you're working from home. And actually, research says that 37% of knowledge workers say their days do not have a clear start or finish time when they work remotely. And as a result, 38% of employees spend more time checking emails outside of business hours when they work remotely, and 35% spend more time thinking about work during their free time. Yeah, you ever been out and you're hanging out and someone is talking about work? Like, what are you doing? We are hanging out, you're speaking about work. So here's how you can set your boundaries around work. Number one, give your team or yourself a clear start and finish times. Yeah, that way everyone knows when they're expected to be working and when they're supposed to clock out. Yeah, so make it known that you start at 8 a.m. and you clock out at 5 p.m. And also, as a manager, be vocal about how you set your boundaries. Avoid sending and responding to messages outside your work hours. Take days off and encourage the team to do the same. I think yeah, both of you mentioned it, yeah? And the other bit is that normalize longer response times. Yes, 50% of managers and 42% of individual contributors feel like they have to respond to notifications right away. As a manager, you can set more realistic expectations around response times and empower your team to completely disconnect when they are off the clock. Yes, number two is setting realistic goals. I think Uwase did highlight on that as well. But to how you can set and work towards goals that you can reasonably accomplish within, a given time frame, include you setting number one, SMART goals. Now, SMART goals are very specific. They are measurable, they are achievable, they are realistic, and they are time bound. Now, this framework will help you create reasonable objectives that you can actually truly achieve. The other bit is that you have to be real with yourself. It is easy to aim for an idealized version of yourself when setting goals. Instead, meet yourself where you are and be very realistic about what you can achieve without running yourself into the ground. Number three, build in time for rest. No one can work non-stop. At the end of the day, you have to rest. Whether you want it or not, you must rest. Then also the other bit is that you should, as a manager, you should use goals to prioritize work. Not everything is urgent and important. Goals help you differentiate between tasks that you must do immediately and those that can actually wait. I think one of the ladies must have highlighted something to do with building breaks into your schedule. Just still we're emphasizing the bit of resting and scheduling breaks, which is a great way to ensure that you're actually taking time off when you need it. Yes? You have to take time off when you actually do need. Then the other bit is that do nothing. Yeah, one of the ways you can actually counter toxic productivity is basically doing nothing. So if you're caught in a cycle of toxic productivity, it feels like every minute needs to have a purpose. You don't just want to go for a run in nature. You want to run 10 miles and train for a marathon. You don't want to just enjoy a fantasy book. You want to read a self-improvement book or reach a goal of reading 50 novels in a year. So instead of feeding into the productivity cycle, set aside time and do nothing and be actually intentionally and productive. Like, be intentional about being productive. If you catch yourself
I like that, but you see, doing nothing is not doing nothing. You're resting.
Okay, this will be resting,
It's
but
resting.
I think maybe when they look at it that way, it makes sense.
Has nothing to do
with work.
No, you're resting. As in, it doesn't have to do it. As in, because resting is doing something.
Okay, maybe doing nothing.
It is important to do nothing because you're resting. Like, if you see me just seated here and I'm resting. Don't stress.
Maybe
me.
this time of doing nothing, it would maybe involve you sitting and listening, maybe to like your favorite type of music.
Yes.
Yeah, going for a walk,
or sleeping,
or watching a movie, or just watching TV. Giving yourself to basically actively try to accomplish nothing. Yes, just relaxing and dealing with that. So as we finalize number 5, deal with your underlying feelings. I think we mentioned that. Toxic productivity is a manifestation of those negative feelings that you failed to actually deal with. So work on your underlying feelings, as well as take a break from your smartphone. I beg your pardon. Owning a smartphone is essentially like having a computer in like your back pocket, because we move with phones everywhere. They're very mobile, and this is great when you have directions to the mall. Yeah, you're looking for, where is Mtasa Cafero? But it's not great when it comes to work-life balance. So if your phone is constantly pinging with work notifications and emails, it is impossible to escape when you're off the clock. So when you see messages from coworkers, it's easy to feel guilty about not wanting to, have you ever had I won't say a complaint, but maybe your supervisor says, but Uwase, I texted you at this time, why didn't you reply?
Absolutely, 100% so many times. But if I'm sleeping, my phone is in silence. Or sometimes I put do not disturb mode. So it's not like I didn't pick up deliberately, but yes, I was sleeping, I was resting.
But also then, but also then the people in the workplaces also need to know their boundaries. Why are you calling an employer past 10 p.m.?
Outside of work time.
Why are you calling an employer at 8 p.m.? You're going to be the reason as to why people's marriages are breaking up. Don't call me at that time.
For me, when I live here,
Exactly.
text. We'll deal with it tomorrow. I don't care. If the place is on fire, we'll deal with it tomorrow.
So finally, you who is watching at home, how you can actually break the cycle of toxic productivity is that you must work smarter and not harder. So you can still perform well at work without, running yourself into the ground. Well, that's what we had for you this morning on our last segment of the show, which is our views. The conversation continues on our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTV Uganda. My name is Priva Elibaz. Good morning.
Well, we've come to the end of Sunrise at Sea this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Monday. It's the first day of the week, and like I mentioned earlier, I hope you're rejuvenated to take on all the tasks that you have ahead of you this week. But remember, toxic productivity is never a good thing. Like I mentioned earlier, do create time for happiness, or for your personal happiness, for self-care, because at the end of the day, problems do create themselves. You have no say whatsoever about problems that come into your life. So yes, and also do remember that nothing is worth your mental health. Yes, you might be overly productive. Could be a good thing. You might amass all the money, all the wealth, and get all the connections in the world. But at what expense? Your mental health? Because I mean, the next time you may not be able to go to work because you're depressed, because you're very anxious. Maybe they even take you to a mental hospital for that reason. So yes, do take care of your mental health. Work, but also remember, take care of yourself. And yes, I did have a conversation with Dr. Sabrina Chitaka in regard to the directive from the Ministry of Health for all children 12 years and above to be vaccinated against COVID-19. And they said that, you see, no child will be vaccinated against their parents' consent. But they are urging you as a parent, as a caretaker, as a guardian out there, to look out for your child and take them for the COVID-19 vaccination. And Dr. Sabrina Chitaka, who is a specialist pediatrician, did assure us, or the viewer out there, that these vaccines are actually safe for your child, in case you were wondering. Well, we had amazing conversations today. Thank you so much for joining us. Catch us tomorrow, same time, same place. For now, have a good day and God bless you.